finally made it to Toronto, Canada. It took me 8 days longer than expected. In the a couple of days before I was supposed to fly, I started having a bit of a sore throat, a bit of low energy, a bit of fatigue, and when we were making our way to the airport, I started getting worse. We had to leave. We left home at like 3:30 in the morning, to get there for early flight. And then when we were at the airport, I started getting very run down, very sore throat, and I didn't know how I would handle the 26 hours of journey, so I ended up going home. And turns out I had COVID. So I went home, Hannah went to Canada, and hopefully travel insurance will pay for the new flight, which cost as much as the original return flight. So yeah, it was funny because we were checked in. We had already checked in our bags, and we were at the gate, and then I started, as I sat down, we still had a few hours ahead of us, but as I sat down, I was like, oh man, I don't know if I'm gonna survive this long journey. And we called the travel insurance, and they said, oh, look, if you're not feeling well, you can reschedule. This is allowance for what you can claim. And then we spoke to Air Canada, and they said that you can rebook it. So yeah, that's what we did. That's what I did. But yeah, it was very last minute. I was at the gate, bags checked in, ready to go. And fun fact, when baggage handling has gotten so much better apparently over the years. So I decided not to go about an hour before the flight, and I took my baggage claim ticket to the baggage desk, and they got my bag within 5 minutes. It was amazing. More on baggage later. So anyway, I ended up going home, resting up, and then that was on the 27th of November. Yesterday, well, it was yesterday for me, the 5th of December, I came back, and oh my God, that was an ordeal too. So I got, again, it was the same early flight, taking off at 7:45, and it was probably, again, an hour before the flight was supposed to take off. They announced a delay, and apparently there was engineering problems. So they thought they could fix it with only a half an hour delay, but half an hour later they said, no, this plane's unserviceable, so we're going to have to put you on a different plane. That would normally be fine, but my connecting flight was only had a 2-hour window. So when I was getting on that flight, I told all the flight attendants, what's going to happen. Am I going to get there in time? And they assured me, oh yeah, you'll get there. It'll be fine. We'll make sure you get there. We've got everything planned. We know that there are people continuing their journeys after this with connecting flights. You're not the only one. So we've radioed everybody, or told everybody on the ground, they're waiting for you. They'll connect. Because when I arrived in Sydney, that's the thing. I was flying Melbourne to Sydney, Sydney to Vancouver, Vancouver to Toronto. So when I got to Sydney, I was meant to change from the domestic terminal to the international terminal, which is like a 10-15 minute drive. So apparently they had that all in mind. But we ended up landing like an hour and 10 minutes late. So my next flight was like 11:20. We got off the plane at like 11:30. And then I was sitting at the back of the plane. They brought me up to the front of the plane just so I can get off the plane first. And they said I have to rush to gate 15 at Sydney Airport. Because that's where apparently the shuttle bus is that'll take me to the international terminal. So I did that. I was running. But the bus didn't go straight away, by the way. It waited for more passengers. But eventually, the bus got me to the international terminal. I had to go through immigration, and then I ran to the gate where my flight was taking off, and it wasn't close. And as I was running there were people. You could see on the boards, on the departure boards, it was final call. And as I got to the gate, as I was getting closer to the gate, there were Air Canada staff with like placards holding up these signs going Air Canada, Air Canada, anybody on Air Canada, they were saying. And I said, yeah, me. And they all said, yeah, okay, go. I said, hold the plane for me. And there were 3 people like this I passed holding the sign. I guess they were waiting for me. And then when I got to the gate, I made it, and they checked my ticket, and the ticket didn't scan. And then I found out that like Qantas cancelled my place on the plane because they didn't think I'd make it in time, even though they had told me, you'll definitely make it. You'll be fine. We've told them you'll make it. But they cancelled it. And maybe that's because they didn't think they could get the baggage on the same plane. I don't know, but they didn't think that I'd make it, even though I did. So at the gate, they did some reorganizing, and they got me on that original plane in a different seat, and that was fine. So I boarded, and I'd apparently have the same connecting flight and arrive at the same time. Maybe my baggage wouldn't arrive, but that was the uncertainty that I had. I didn't know whether my baggage would arrive at the same time they told me. But the last thing that one of the flight attendants said is, oh yeah, we'll make sure it gets there at the same time. It'll catch up to you, he said. So I got on the plane. Obviously, it was already like 11:20. Wasn't the best flight because my seat wouldn't really recline. It would go back like just a few centimeters, and then over the next 10 minutes, it would just come upright again. Not all the way, but a lot of the way. So it wasn't really easy to sleep like that. So I didn't really sleep. Meanwhile, I'm looking at the woman sitting beside me, and the dude in front of me, and they're like reclined, like super, like this delicious amount of recline. And I said to the flight attendants, I spoke to 2 flight attendants, and they both tried to shove my seat back. And the second flight attendant, she goes, oh, that's as far as it goes. He goes, yeah, that's a problem. I should lodge that I'll lodge that as a fault. I'm like, great. And she goes, well, you could change seats, and if you want. And she's like looking around the plane, and I was like, man, everybody is like lying across all the free seats, and they've got look at their baggage there, and it's like, halfway through a flight, I'm just going to rock up and say, hey, I'm sitting here. So I just stayed in the seat. I think in that first, say 22 hours, I slept once for 5 minutes, and then again for about 7 minutes. Oh, maybe again for about 20 minutes towards the end of the flight. But yeah, by the time I arrived at Vancouver, I was pretty not well. I was dizzy, and that's probably still, partly being really tired, partly recovering from COVID still, because I still wasn't right from that the previous day. Anyway, so when I rocked up, I was looking. I had realized this on the way to Vancouver. On my ticket, the boarding time, it should have been like I was supposed to be on was it a 1 o'clock flight? So, I can't remember. But anyway, the boarding time of the ticket that I had in my hand was like 6 hours later than it should have been. So when I got to the gate, when I got to Vancouver, I went straight to the Air Canada desk, and they said to me, yeah, Qantas stuffed up your ticket. They put you on a much later flight from Vancouver to Toronto. I was like, Jesus. But she was very nice, the lady at Air Canada. She goes, well, do you want to be on this next flight? I was like, yes, please. At this stage, I was like, my head was doing like roller coasters from like, whether, as I said, the tiredness or the COVID or possibly anxiety. I told the woman that. She goes, oh, are you not well? Because then you shouldn't fly, because if there's an emergency, then you have to be. I'm like, no, I'm fine. I'll make it. Anyway, so she said, well, we have to see what's happening with your baggage first before we can put you on this flight. I was like, okay. I thought this will be interesting. I'm curious what's happening with my baggage. And she was able to track it. Again, it's amazing how they track the baggage these days, but she could track it. And I think she said to me, oh, yeah, actually she did say, she said, oh, your bag's still in Sydney. And I thought, oh, great. But she said, but that's fine, we can put you on this plane and then you can figure out the baggage once you get to Toronto. So she put me on that plane. I got to Toronto. She gave me instructions what to do, and Air Canada had a desk at they've got the baggage carousel, and she told me that there's a desk right there. So I went and spoke to them, and again, the lady that I spoke to, I think she had a Caribbean accent. She was a lovely, lovely person, and she was training up a colleague. But anyway, as she tracked my bag, she showed me my screen. She says, "Oh, look, they know that it's lost, or that it's delayed, that it's in the system, that it's not with you." And she says, "Oh, well, look, we'll find it and we'll get it and we'll deliver it to you." So she took down all my details. And it seemed like she was doing really complicated things, because the woman that she was training was just looking on like this. So at the end, when I thanked the lady with the Caribbean accent, I said, I wish that the apprentice, I said, "Oh, good luck," and she was like, "Thank you." And then I contacted, I got in touch with Hannah, and she came with her dad and picked me up, and yeah, it's cold. I went outside. It's snowing. It wasn't snowing. There was snow, and I guess the first impression of Toronto is traffic. God damn, there's a lot of cars on the roads, and I think the freeway we were going down to get to Hannah's place. Hannah only lives about 20 minutes from the airport, but there's 8 lanes of traffic one way leaving the airport, and we were on the freeway again today, and again 8 lanes, so 16 lanes of traffic. And Hannah was explaining to me that the public transport here is like the train system is apparently shite, like dog shit. Actually, she showed me a map. Oh, here we go. So in a population like this hugely dense population, this is apparently the train map, not this red crap at the bottom, just like 1, 2, 3, 4 train lines for this massive city. So basically, because the train system's so bad, everybody drives apparently. So yeah, we got here. I had something to eat. My body was doing full roller coaster rides by that stage. So then I just like slept. I think Hannah said I went to bed at like 8:30. I got up at like 8:30 in the morning, so it was probably about 12 hours. And yeah, look, probably still not right today. Still a few like dizzy spells. Still coughing, obviously, but just overall, I think better. I'm sure I'll feel better each day. Yeah, and I'll what do we do? We didn't do too much today. We went for a drive, just with Hannah's mum she had to pick up something from another town called Bolton. Had a frolic in the snow. While she was in the building, I slept on my ass. That was great. And then I went with Hannah's dad to help to buy a Christmas tree, and that was interesting. Yeah, that's pretty cool. I've never done that before. And oh my God, they're so unethically cheap, I would say. The Christmas trees, you could buy one for like $23 or 23 to $33, something like that, depending on the size, and decent Christmas trees. And then you add sales tax on top, which is I think 13%. But I was saying, oh, that doesn't seem right that it's that cheap. I mean, I know that they have like farms where they grow the trees, but still doesn't seem right. Anyway, but yeah, then we came home and chilled a bit, and yeah, that's about it. That was my first 24 hours in Toronto. This video went a lot longer than I planned, but don't feel like you have to listen to. I wonder whether you listened to it all, and no worries if you didn't, and just skip to the end. In which case, thanks. Otherwise, see ya.